town council meeting. We could rise for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Here. There we Kate, roll call. Here. Here.
Here.
Here. There you have.
All right, thank you. So now, next on our agenda is our audience of citizens. And if I could certainly open to whoever wants to speak about any issue. But we have some, but if it is thank you. If it is a Bright Feeds issue, I'd like to reserve that till after the presentation from the Department of Public Health, and then we could have folks come up and ask questions, and then Public Health, I'm sure, could answer it, or anything else about Bright Feeds. If there's any recent developments, save it for then. So the first person on the list, Peter.
Good evening. My name is Peter Zarabozo. I reside at 158 Elwood Road. I'm speaking tonight as a resident and as an elected official concerned about compliance with our town charter and basic governance norms. For the record, I serve on the Board of Education, but my comments this evening do not reflect the board in any way. I'm speaking solely on my own behalf. The town charter requires the town manager to reside in town. Even in 2022, there was a charter referendum proposing the removal of this residency requirement. That measure failed, with nearly 71% of approximately 9,000 Berlin voters rejecting that change. Voters want the town manager to live in this town as the charter currently mandates. Previously, in November 2024, the council voted to grant the town manager 2 years to comply with this residency requirement. My concern is that the charter itself does not appear to authorize the council to waive or extend this requirement. A town charter is a binding governing document, and unless it expressly permits extensions or waivers, the council does not have the discretion to grant them. For clarity of the record, the town manager has publicly confirmed that he does not currently reside in town in a recent social media post dated January 17th. He goes on to add and discuss, I'm paraphrasing, the 2-year agreement granted by the council, as well as the fact that he does not currently reside in this town. At this point, that means our town manager has not resided in our town and has been non-compliant with the charter for almost over 1 year at this point. And at this point, the issue is not intent, it is solely authority. I'm asking the council to state on the record what charter provision it relied upon in granting this extension. If no such provision exists, I respectfully request that the council formally seek a written legal opinion from Corporation Counsel addressing whether the extension is authorized under the charter, and if not, how this issue can be remedied going forward. Given the importance of resolving this matter promptly, I politely request that such a written legal opinion be provided within 10 days. If a written legal opinion already exists or is produced, I further request that it be made public. My goal is not to challenge anyone here personally. It is solely to ensure compliance with our charter and uphold public trust. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you, Peter. Al, it is, I believe. Yeah. Maybe just briefly, while we have the question at hand.
Can you hear me? Okay, so anyone who comes up to the podium, please make sure that you speak into the mic. Right, thank you for that. And counselors, make sure that your mics are on also.
Thanks, Kate. Just a brief answer, if you could.
Sure. Back in the fall of 2024, when the town council was in the process of recruiting
a new town manager through the assistance of a professional recruiter, Randy Frank. When the discussion regarding whether or not the candidates needed to reside in town at the time of appointment came up, you'll recall that we either, as a full council or in a subcommittee, I can't remember, it's 14 months ago, but there was a discussion about the fact that the charter specifically states that the town manager need not resign in town at the time of appointment, but shall reside in town during his or her tenure. So the candidate that was selected by the town council, Ryan Curley, at the time was the first selectman of another town. And one of the concerns that he expressed during negotiations was not leaving that town high and dry and having a desire during his first 6 months as Berlin's town manager to properly transition the government in Portland. And so the discussion came up, okay, we understand you're not going to be a town resident at the time of appointment. We understand there's a transition. What's a reasonable time frame in terms of you establishing residency in Berlin? And 2 years, as the speaker indicated, is what was agreed upon in a contract that was effective over 12 months ago. So we're now more than halfway through that 2-year window during which Mr. Curley will have to establish a residency in Berlin. But there is almost 12 months left in that. So right now, he's not in violation of any contract with the town. In terms of the interpretation of the charter, charter says specifically that at the time of appointment, the manager doesn't need to reside in town, but during his or her tenure. So it doesn't specify, you know, the 5th day or the 5th month or anything specific about when that residency has to be established. And like I said, that contract was approved by the council in November of 2024.
Okay, I appreciate that. Hopefully, Peter, that helps the interpretation. All right, we can explore it further. All right, next on the list is, yeah, I have one other person. Ryan, would you wait, I assume it's a Bright Feeds? Okay, we'll do it during that. So, yes, ma'am. You've got to come up, yeah. Name and address.
My name is Jean Terranova, 56 Scenic Drive, Berlin, Connecticut.
Welcome.
And I thank the council for allowing me these couple of minutes here. I'll be brief. I did submit an application for the Golfing Commission, replacing for the 89ers, the open vacancy, Nancy Berger. And I'd appreciate you reviewing and your input. Hopefully you'll approve that. I think I'm qualified to do the job. I'm looking forward to working with the team.
Great.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks for coming out.
Yeah,
That's
thanks for coming out.
I want to put a kind of a face to the application.
Very
Oh, I
nice.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
great. Thank you. That's serious?
All serious,
5
it's
minutes.
all serious.
Yes. Anyone else for other issues other than Bright Feeds? Yes, yes, sir. Yes, please.
Yes, David James, 1863 Chamberlain Highway.
Good evening.
Good evening. I just want to make a quick comment. I'm not used to this type of format where I've lived before. Usually there's agenda items and you speak into agenda items, but I'm gathering I can speak
Yes.
the meeting in general. Is that?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
So, it's just a quick comment, and I know that this properly will go to different committees and so forth. But okay, so in the this week's edition of the Berlin Citizen, there was an article on the inside. It wasn't a cover, but right inside the inside cover, talking about. I'll read the head, the banner. Fight over riparian buffers is brewing in Connecticut. So I don't know if you all get this, if you read this, whatever. So the only point I wanted to bring up is I'm aware of the development proposal for 680 Kensington Avenue, the housing development. Um, and as most of us, I'm sure know, Hatchery Brook runs directly, it bisects the property basically through the middle. Um, and it also, that parcel of property is contiguous with the Hatchery Brook Conservation Area, which has, wonderful trails. So, my point is only, I hope that whatever the development proposals are, I haven't gotten downtown to see if there is a document. I know he's changed the number of houses from 50 up to 100, 180 or something like that. I haven't been able to look at the plans, but um, I think it would be very wise to look at a preservation of that brook through that area because it's contiguous with Hatchery Brook. Because, if you read the article, it's established science that buffers are, the most efficacious way to keep water clean. And it's a good town. We have a lot of good water here, and I hate to see that polluted by 180 lawns. Uh, and I guess the only other point is, and this is a selfish point on my part, I like to walk, I like to hike a lot. And I just think it would be a tremendous asset to this town if there could be any extension of the Hatchery Brooks trails along that riparian corridor. It would just, it probably extend, I don't know, half a mile more of trails possible. But, I know this is all probably issues for planning and zoning and wetlands, I guess, but
Right.
just my thoughts, that's all.
No, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's, it's far from approval, obviously it's a proposal now, planning and zoning, there's water there, there's wetlands on that property as well. So of course, inland wetlands and Conservation Commission, they'll all be looking at all that. So,
I appreciate
yeah.
Thank you
Yeah,
for
thank
coming
you.
out. We
Appreciate
appreciate
it.
that.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, anyone, still audience of citizens, anyone else for anything else other than Bright Feeds? Anything else? We're good? Is there anyone online, Kate, that? Okay. So we'll go ahead and close the audience of citizens. And I will, mayor's update. We got enough to talk about tonight, so we'll dispense with that and move on our agenda here. So we'll go to new business. Is our consent agenda. And
Consent.
No,
no consent. I'm sorry. We start with new business, so we don't need that. So, okay, so we're right to number one on our agenda, our report from the Connecticut Department of Public Health and Bright Feeds. So we will invite our state partners up and you can give us the review of that report. And then what we'll do is, so after that, we'll certainly entertain questions from the audience about the report. I would ask that you come up, obviously, and state your questions, and however they want to handle it. I would say if it's okay with you ladies, we take the questions and then you could answer them, after everyone maybe asks, instead of answering each one specifically, if there are questions. And then if there's anything else, briefly on anything else about Bright Feeds, that's fine to throw it out to us, and we'll of course look at it. But tonight we focus on this report. We've been waiting for the for the presentation, so we appreciate you being here tonight, and floor is yours.
Right. Is this on?
Yeah.
Close?
You can pull it over to you. It'll move over. There you go.
The side like that? You guys all hear me? Okay, well, good evening and welcome everybody. And I applaud all you brave souls who decided to get into your car and head out into this very cold weather. Thank you for being here. My name is Cheryl Fields, and I'm a toxicologist. I've had over 25 years experience evaluating environmental and occupational exposures, sometimes in communities just like yours, looking at health that might be associated with those exposures. And for the past 7 years, I've done that kind of work at the Department of Public Health in the Environmental and Occupational Health Hazards Program. And with me today, also from DPH, is Pat Bazaki. She's sitting here on the bench. She is a manager in the Environmental and Occupational Health Hazards Program and also a manager in the Emerging Contaminants Unit. So she's very busy. She wears two hats. Also with me is my colleague Jake from DEEP. And I wanted to have him here because as we go through this presentation, some of you may have questions that come up about stack emissions testing, which was audited by DEEP, and you may have questions about modeling the DEEP did. And I don't want to speak for that work, but we did use their modeling work to better understand the kinds of exposures that people may have experienced in the community. So it's okay, better? Oh yeah, I definitely hear the difference. So sorry. Do you need me to repeat anything? I wasn't really. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Okay, no problem. Let me know if I step away and I get excited about what I'm saying. I may step away again. May need it higher. If you have questions about that, I'd like to defer to him so that he can give you the information you need. So we're all on the same page dealing with the facts. So, as we know, tonight's presentation, we're going to be focusing on the Department of Public Health's evaluation of the exposure to contaminants in the ambient air, outdoor air. Ambient, when I use that term ambient, think outdoor air, from the Bright Feeds facility in Berlin, Connecticut. And then, as we just mentioned earlier, we'll follow up with time for comments and questions. So we're going to provide more details of our assessment on later slides. And I don't know how many of you here have actually read the report. If you did, well, for you. Did you finish it in one night?
No.
Okay, so we're going to provide more details of our assessment in later slides, but for this first slide, oh, I jumped ahead. Sorry, I'm trying to see if I can get to the second page. Sorry about this, guys. Didn't bring a mouse, and my computer doesn't want to just. Nope. Guys, let's see if I can do this in a different. There. Trying to get to the next slide. Okay. Now we're all on the same page. At least I'm here with you now. Okay, I'm going to take a few minutes now just to cover the key events that brought us here today, to tonight. As you all know, Bright Feeds is a food recycling facility that's located in Berlin that accepts food waste. Right? Well, please correct me. What is it? Berlin? What was I saying? Berlin?
Yeah.
We are not in Germany today, folks. Okay. Berlin. Hopefully, I won't even say it again. Bright Feeds. That accepts food waste and it applies a drying technology to turn the food waste into animal feed. And since the time that the facility began operating in late October 2022, some community members reported noticeable odors coming from the facility and expressed concerns about potential health impacts from their exposure to the air emissions from the Bright Feeds facility. I understand that. I have a very sensitive nose. I live only one community over, and if I had been smelling that, I would have similar concerns. Well, thankfully, in response to the community's concerns, local health directors in Berlin in November of 2024 asked the Connecticut Department of Public Health to evaluate health risks from the exposure to contaminant and air emissions from the facility. Around the same time, our colleagues at DEEP, that's the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, required that Bright Feeds test the air coming from its dryer stacks. The stack testing was performed in January of 2025 by a third-party test contractor and audited by DEEP. Once the stack results were verified, which happened in February, DEEP used them in an air dispersion model, which is a federal model that the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, uses for just these purposes to evaluate ambient air. They use that to estimate the ambient outdoor air concentrations in the community. And then DEEP provided those modeling results to us, and we use that data to evaluate whether the estimated contaminant levels in ambient air could affect public health of the community. So tonight, that's what we're here to talk about. And for those of you going, well, what was going on between 2023 and 2024? Well, okay. Well, not nothing. Jake from Deep has shared with us that the agency received a number of complaints. You probably know about that. Maybe some of you made them about noise and odors being emitted from the facility, and that resulted in multiple inspections of the facility by Deep staff. So there were things happening. Maybe I can move on. Okay. So next slide, please. And like I started to say, the wrong place, we are going to provide additional details about our assessment in later slide. But before that, I want to address your key question, which is, should I be concerned about exposure to air emissions from bright feeds? And based on all of the available information provided to us, DPH concludes that the past exposure to breathing in contaminants found in air from the Bright Feeds facility is not expected to harm people's health. And I hope that you can feel reassured from that. Our analysis showed that the risk of cancer from this exposure is very low, very, very low. We'll talk more about that in later slides. And likewise, health problems other than cancer are unlikely to occur. And that is because the estimated contaminant levels in ambient air are well below health levels of concern. However, we did find that odors were detectable for one chemical, acetaldehyde. And that's the estimated concentration, both at the stack, or well, the stack level and the estimated concentration in ambient air were within the range of perception, which means that some people may have been able to smell that odor, which is described as a sharp, pungent odor, sometimes fruity. Does that sound familiar to any of you here? I see some heads nodding. Okay, so just a little bit about acetaldehyde. It's a chemical that can be released into the air during food processing. No surprise to any of you here, right? And other industrial activities. But there are other common sources that you may not have been aware of, which include vehicle exhaust, wildfires, wood stoves, and tobacco smoke. Sometimes when we smell odors, it can cause a temporary discomfort. And for acetaldehyde, the kinds of symptoms that people may have experienced if they could perceive those odors, and some people respond differently to those odors, but you could have experienced things like headaches, nausea, irritation to the nose, throat, and lungs, cough, nasal congestion, tightness in your chest, and possibly even shortness of breath. Yeah, still not good.
So I'm getting a comment that they can't hear
Can't hear.
online, but it's only one person. So I don't know, Luke, if you can make sure your speakers are up. That may help you. I'm not sure. But if anybody else is having issues, could you put it into the chat so we know it's on our end? Okay. Just talk as much as you can into the mic. That might help.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, I'll try. Um, all right. So the good news is that with odors, these kinds of symptoms, even though they are very discomforting, they usually go away when the odor decreases, and reaches a level where the smell is no longer noticeable. And it's also just important to point out that smelling something doesn't always mean it's dangerous. Oftentimes, odors can be noticeable at concentrations that are far below the levels that harm your health. Alternatively, there are plenty of things out there that have no odor that can harm your health, like radon, but I'm not going to jump into that path.
Go back to the beginning.
All right. Did I miss? Should I wait?
I think that might be the gentleman. Audio finally started working.
He can hear it now? Is that what he was saying? Oh. Sorry about that. If they're the person who was asking me to go to the beginning, hopefully there's some repetitiveness in this, because sometimes when you're not working in the science field, there are terms and concepts that can be hard to grasp. And so we try to kind of layer this. So I do believe that you should be able to get most of the important pieces by the time I finish this talk. And if you haven't, I'm available to talk to you after that.
The other thing that everybody should be aware of, I apologize, is that this is being recorded. It will be available on the town's website through YouTube. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So as I pointed out, as I just started to say, that smelling something doesn't always mean it's dangerous. But one of the things that's reassuring about our review is that it did confirm what many of you in the community reported, that we did detect a chemical that was, had concentrations that were high enough to be detectable and smelled, and that many of you reported smelling a similar kind of smell from the Bright Feeds facility, and some of you may have actually had some of these symptoms that I just described and experienced those. The results of our evaluation and these conclusions that I just shared with you here are based on our risk assessment of the ambient air concentrations in the community modeled by DEEP from the stack test emissions. All right, next slide, please. So I think the next reasonable question might be, why was modeling used to estimate contaminants in the air, right? So that's because folks at DPH wanted to have a better understanding of the concentration of the contaminants from the Bright Feeds facility that people could have breathed in if they were standing just outside the Bright Feeds property line. And we assumed that that concentration that was modeled was the same concentration that you might have experienced in your backyard, even if your home was far, far away from that line. And I think most of you, nobody's homes are actually located right at the property line. But this is a conservative assumption exposure, but this was an important thing because we can't understand your risk for health if we don't understand your exposure risks. So in order to do that, we asked DEEP to model the ambient air levels because the emissions from the Bright Feed facility were only measured at the dryer stack, and nobody was breathing at the stack. And the question you might have is, well, why measure at the stack? Why not measure it in our homes? Well, it would be pretty expensive. Even if we want to just measure on the property line, we'd have to have a lot of monitors out there, and it would be cost prohibitive. Problem when you move away from that stack as well is that you no longer are measuring just the chemicals coming from Bright Feed stack, but you'll be picking up other things. So for instance, if monitors were near a roadway, as I pointed out, acetaldehyde is emitted from vehicle exhaust. So we want to know exactly what was going on, what was coming into the air from the Bright Feeds facility. And this is the common method that's used by federal agencies and states to make that assessment. So hopefully that sort of explains a little bit. It's also, it's important to recognize too that the concentrations of the contaminants that were measured directly at the dryer stack is much higher than actual concentrations of chemicals in the ambient air. And that's because the chemicals disperse as they leave the dryer stack. They disperse into the air and they become diluted. And one way to think about that would be, well, this is a female's perspective. Maybe, well, I shouldn't say that. That's very gender. But my perspective from washing dishes. You've got a big bowl of water and you pop a drop of dish soap in there. The chemicals in that dish soap, in the drop of dish soap, are very concentrated. The moment it hits the water, it expands. It's still, and it dilutes itself equally throughout the parts of the water. That's kind of what happens with air, right? This stuff comes out. You don't necessarily see it. And the minute it gets into the air, it begins to dilute. And that dilution and dispersion occurs as it moves away from the stack and generally typically gets lower and lower as you move away from the stack. Okay, I think we're all seem to get that. And it's, the other thing that I wanted to talk about was that the data that we collected under the conditions. Oh, I have just jumped into a different. Okay, sorry about that. I'm really having trouble with my computer tonight because I didn't bring a mouse, and I'll tell you, my touchpad is not interested in that story. So, and then the other thing to point out is that the model that DEEP used an EPA model, like I said earlier, to estimate the levels of contaminant in air that people may have been breathing just outside the property line. And that model is validated and has been used by the EPA and other states for many years to evaluate these kinds of exposure levels. So lastly, we performed an no. Okay, so that's it. So let's move on to the next slide, please, Pat. Sorry. I apologize for this. All right, so what data did we use to evaluate? So you sort of already have a little preview to that, but the stack emission test results that were provided to us by DEEP provided the data on the types and the concentrations of contaminants that were being released into the air from the Bright Feeds facility stack. This data was collected under conditions that were representative of the regular facility operations and, importantly, before the RTO air pollution control device was installed. So it's more likely to represent the exposures from the past, the exposures that all of you in the community had associated with smelling unpleasant smells and sometimes having experienced some of those symptoms. So that's what we wanted to know about, those exposures. Now, DEEP provided DPH with the modeled annual average levels of concentrations and the maximum ambient concentrations for each of 19 volatile organic compounds that were detected in the Bright Feed stack emissions. For us to evaluate your health risks, we selected the highest maximum ambient concentrations that were modeled by DEEP to evaluate your health risks. And that's because that's a recommended approach used by federal guidance. By using the maximum concentration instead of the average, it provides a more conservative, health protective estimate of exposure. We assume that you're being exposed to that highest level during the entire time, from the time the Bright Feeds facility started operations until 2.5 years later when the RTO was on. Okay, another added layer of the health protectiveness I've already spoken to briefly is it comes from the fact that these values, those maximum values, are based on levels that were modeled at a location directly outside property line, and none of your homes are right there. So there's an expectation that as the concentration of each contaminant continues to move away from that area and from the property line, the concentrations will get lower and lower. So we have a very health protected number that we're saying you're exposed to, when in reality, you were probably exposed to much lower levels. But you never know. So we do a health protective worst case scenario in a way approach. Okay, lastly, we also performed an in-depth risk assessment for 2 chemicals, acetaldehyde and ethanol, whose modeled ambient air concentrations exceeded these health-based screening levels, which are used in these kinds of health assessments. I'm going to explain more about that later in the next slide. Okay. Okay, what methods were used in what did we use for our risk assessment? So, well, as I've mentioned before several times now, we follow federal guidance for conducting public health assessments to evaluate public health exposures and possible health risks from the Bright Feeds facility. As described in that guidance manual, the first step in the process is something called a screening analysis. And this is what's used to identify contaminants of potential concern by comparing the maximum concentrations that were estimated at the site with health-based screening values. A health-based screening value is calculated. It's the calculated concentration of a substance in air, water or food, soil, below which health effects are unlikely to occur in people exposed to that level. These screening values are derived from health guidelines like ATSDR's minimal risk levels, or EPA's reference concentrations. And they're done using toxicological data. That's data oftentimes done in test animals, but for some of these compounds, it's based on data in humans as well. Usually workers who are exposed to high levels, and we can see the kinds of effects we expect that would be expected to occur. And when we derive them, they're using default assumptions. In the case of cancer, it's an assumption that you're exposed for 30 years, for a lifetime, which they consider 30 years. Not that your whole life is 30 years. It's 30-year exposure over 78-year lifetime. Contaminants that fall below those screening levels are unlikely to pose any health risks. So any contaminant found above that doesn't necessarily pose a health risk, but we are required to evaluate them further, not using the default exposure methods, but taking in an in-depth analysis where we look at your particular exposure methods or the exposure scenarios in your community. So we did that for ethanol and acetaldehyde, the two VOCs, volatile organic compounds, that exceeded screening values. And we did that using current toxicity information and conservative assumptions about site-specific exposure. What does that mean, conservative assumptions? Well, we again followed federal guidance, and the kinds of assumptions that we made was we thought, well, adults and children that are living and working near the Bright Peats facility could be exposed from breathing in the air while outdoors or even in their homes or workplaces. So we assume that you could be exposed to these contaminants from the facility up to 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. It means you didn't go anywhere else. You didn't leave your community. You stayed right there and got exposed to those levels 24/7 for 2.5 years from the time the facility started operations. This represent and to the time that the RTO was put on, which was on April 4th of 2025. So, sorry about that. Which is a very health protective assumption. I think you might all agree. For the we also assumed that it was continuous exposure happening 24 hours a day, 365 days per year. And this is conservative because, you know, people would not be expected to continuously breathe the air at that location of the property line. And it was also assumed, like I said, that the entire exposure duration was 2.5 years. And this, as I said, represents the time from the start of the Bright Feeds until the pollution control RTO device was installed in April 4th of 2025. And just so we're going to talk about this in more detail later, but for a cancer assessment, the exposure duration of 2.5 years is averaged across a 78-year lifetime. Normally, it would be a 30-year time frame, averaged over 78 years. And so what happens when we do this site-specific exposure scenario for cancer is that the cancer calculation is lower because the actual amount of exposure that you had was only 2.5 years out of 30, or basically 33 times less than the normal kinds of default exposure assumptions that you might expect. So the reason why these two chemicals showed up in the default screening analysis as being a possible concern is because, at least for the cancer situation, it was assuming that you had 30 years of exposure, when in reality, you had 2.5 years. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. For the odor analysis, we evaluated these odors qualitatively. And that means that we didn't use the kinds of assessment that we use when we look at cancer and non-cancer effects. We have to use something called an odor threshold. And an odor threshold can't be used like a toxicity value because they're not the same thing. Basically, an odor threshold gives us a range of the concentrations at which a chemical odor could be detected. And that value is variable because you probably can think about, some of you in this room don't smell anything at all. Some people have a very sensitive nose. I can sniff out a gas leak miles away. So we all vary in our ability to smell chemicals, and we also vary in our response to those smells that we detect. And so we don't have a cutoff number where we can say, when an odor is detected by somebody, here's the kinds of things we expect. It's not a hard, fast number in the way that we can do that for the cancer and non-cancer risks. So that's what we mean by that. But I will say that, you know, as I noted, people react differently to odors, and that some people are more sensitive. Oftentimes, you'll find that children, older adults, pregnant women, and people with asthma may feel symptoms sooner or stronger. So while we were able to identify the concentration in the air that's within the range of being detectable by the human nose, we can only qualitatively say that some people may have been able to smell the odor, And some people may have experienced symptoms such as the headache and nausea and, respiratory irritation that I described earlier, and that those symptoms typically go away in these kinds of exposures. But we can't quantify what risk would be associated with those symptoms. Makes sense. Lastly, it's done here. We identified areas where there are gaps and unknowns in the data in our evaluation of the health risks. And we're going to talk about this later in greater detail in later slides. Next slide, please. Okay. So, there. What are the major risk assessment findings? First of all, we found that breathing in ethanol and acetaldehyde at the ambient air concentrations modeled by DEEP is not expected to harm people's health. Of the two contaminants that we evaluated in the more in-depth risk analysis using your specific exposure scenario of 2.5 years, only one of those has been identified as a likely human carcinogen through inhalation. That's acetaldehyde. The other compound, ethanol, is a carcinogen when we ingest it, but there is no evidence for it to cause cancer when inhaled. So our analysis of the cancer risks showed that the risk of cancer is extremely low. And what do I mean by that? The actual calculated value was the lifetime cancer risk was 5 times 10 to the negative 8. What does that mean? It means 5 excess cancers would occur in 100 million people if they were exposed to these concentrations 24/7, 365 days a year for 2.5 years at the site. 5 in 100 million people. It's not very high risk. In fact, this risk is much less than the 1 excess cancer in 1 million, which is called a 1 times 10 to the negative 6 risk. This 1 in a million risk is meaningful because it's the cancer risk limit that Connecticut uses to derive cleanup criteria for individual chemicals at hazardous waste sites. Any hazardous site. A cancer risk less than 1 in a million is considered to be insignificant or de minimis. Cancer chemicals that are present in concentrations that are less than this cleanup criteria of 1 in a million are considered to pose insignificant risks. Thus, they don't need to be cleaned up, and exposures from the chemical don't need to be reduced or stopped. Cancer risks from inhalation of acetaldehyde in indoor air near the Bright Feeds facility are extremely low. They are 20 times lower than that de minimis risk of 1 in a million. Therefore, we don't expect that this exposure would have posed a cancer risk, a long-term risk of cancer for anybody in the community breathing that. Okay. For the results of our non-cancer health effects, they indicated that non-cancer health effects are unlikely to occur. And how do we calculate that? Sorry for the details, but I think you do want to know a little bit about how we do it, right? So how that's done, again, is following federal guidelines. We calculate something called a hazard quotient. And the hazard quotient is the ratio of the concentration of the chemical in the air divided by the concentration that is associated with, it's a non-cancer toxicity value, which is usually for inhalation, it's a minimal risk level or a reference concentration, which is shown that if you had a lifetime exposure to that concentration, you would not be expected to develop a non-cancer health effect. So when you have that environmental concentrations from Bright Feeds and the concentration is less than that comparative risk value, you'll end up with a hazard quotient value that will be lower than 1. When chemicals have a value lower than 1, they are not considered to pose a health risk to the public. And when we set these up, we are thinking about the most sensitive person, and what the most sensitive person will depend on the kind of chemical and the effects. If it were something that caused developmental effects, we would say that the most sensitive person would be an infant or a woman who was pregnant, a developing child. So for any specific chemical, it's based on the most sensitive effect that was seen in laboratory animals or in human populations, and then we address that. So when I say that this isn't posing a risk to public health, that's for everybody in the community, including older folks and women and children. So in our case, when we calculated those hazard quotients for both ethanol and acetaldehyde, we found that they were below the hazard quotients of 1. Therefore, acute, and we did this for two different, with inhalational compounds, we can look at both acute exposures and chronic exposures. So we looked at the annual average that was bottled by DEEP to look at the long-term exposure, but we also thought about what about acute effects? What could be, and those are different outcomes, and they're different levels. And we looked at them for both for acetaldehyde because there were reference values for both acute and chronic, and both of the hazard quotients were well below 1. I think it was 0.07 and 0.02, so much lower than what we'd expect to see in a community. There isn't an acute level for ethanol, but the chronic exposure level was right at 1. And again, unless that kind of level is not expected to pose any kind of long-term risk for non-cancer health effects. Okay, I think I might be at the end of this slide, please. Nope, we're not. So just a minute before I get done, in case some of you guys have questions or you haven't thought of them, let me tell you what they could be. Because I did mention that when we do this risk assessments are done in the absence of all the knowledge. That's why we do them. We don't know, right? We don't have that little black ball. We can say, what's really going on? We don't. So when we do any risk assessment, we need to understand what we know and what we don't know, and what are the limitations of those things. So for instance, in our evaluation of exposure, as we talked about earlier, it's based on modeled data, not actual measured concentrations in ambient air. And we talked about why we couldn't use the modeled concentration, or we couldn't use measurements taken throughout the community. The data was modeled off of dryer stack emissions, and these tests were done on a single day, but under regular operating conditions. So the assumption we made was that it represents the kinds of exposures that may have been going on. But the reality is the emissions could have been higher or lower on other days. And we won't ever know that. That's also one of the reasons why we make decisions like, instead of taking the average level, we took the highest. There were 3 test runs, and we took the highest concentration of the 3 test runs. We used those higher levels and assume that that's what you're being exposed to all the time. In the reality, you may have been exposed to lower levels on some days and higher levels on others that averaged out. And the average level would be the reasonable thing to use, but that's not what we did. We used the highest level and assumed you were exposed to that highest level during the entire duration. And the other thing is that we're relying on a test that's used by the Environmental Agency. It's called a TO15. It's tests for volatile organic chemicals and other substances at the stack, but it doesn't test for every single volatile compound. It tests for something like 151 compounds. So it's not small beans. It does look at a wide variety. And of the 151, only 19 were identified and detected there. And many of the compounds were the exact kind of compounds we would have expected to see from that facility, given the kinds of things that it does there. So it wasn't a surprise, but those are limitations, and I want to recognize those, that they may have impacted our results. Because we can't assess your risk without a good sense of exposure, we have to talk about how that evaluation of exposure might have impacted our evaluation of health risks. And the health risks were based on, our analysis of risk of health was based on data from exposure from modeled concentrations, right? Modeled from the stack emissions. And again, just limited to the volatile organic compounds in air. And we assumed in our assessment that your exposure ended on April 4th of 2025, when they started using the RTO pollution control device. We did do, as I mentioned, the in-depth analysis of the 2 chemicals who had concentrations that exceeded the health-based screening levels, And the results of this analysis, even using very conservative assumptions about exposure and the fact that we thought that you could have been exposed 24/7. And there may be people who were exposed 24/7. Some people can't leave their homes, and we understand that. So we wanted to look out for all of those people when we did this kind of assessment. And as I explained earlier, the evaluation of odors is qualitative. There's nothing that we could do to move around that. This is just a reflection of our natural biological variability and in the ability to smell odors and how we respond to them. But they are things that should be mentioned because they may have impacted our results. We tend to try to err for all of these things that are unknowns that we can't quantify. We do tend to err on the side of trying to assume, to capture what we think could be the worst case exposure scenario to make up for some of these deficits here. Okay, and I believe that's sort of the end of it. So go ahead. Do we have questions? I'm open.
I think it's easier to have them come up, ask their questions.
Oh.
So I think we'll give you a break.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Excellent presentation. And maybe then we'll let folks come up and ask questions. If someone comes up before and they got the same question, and you can write them down. Yes. Yeah. I would take a seat because they've got to come up and identify themselves, unfortunately. And then, if someone asks a question before you, if it's the same question, obviously we're going to get an answer at the end. And if you throw in a deep question, we have our deep expert here too, so can answer that too. If that makes sense. Is that so if question for you guys from the folks, and then while they're up here, if they have a question on a deep that would be better handled by deep, you guys could figure that out when the question comes to light. So let's do it that way, and if you could keep your questions brief, and we'll get them all answered for you this evening. So Ryan, first up, since you were on the list for the whatever questions you have. What's wrong with your tire?
Basketball game.
Oh.
I try to dress a little more.
You
A lot of effort into this. I
look good.
probably not going to be too brief, just because we have a lot of.
Ryan, just your name and address,
Sorry,
please.
Ryan Malloy, 84 Juniper Lane. And I'll try to be brief, but it's going to be hard, right? Because there's a lot that was said here. But it's not the full picture that needs to be painted. And there's a reason why. There's a lot of cameras here. A lot of people don't know. So if somebody was listening to this, they would think, it's just that one side. So let's be clear on this, right?
Well, but the other thing, we're not going to go back through 2 years of what we've been through, and if really it's for questions and not.
Mark, we were terrorized by a company for 1.5 to 2 years. I want to just set the stage a little bit. I'll be very eloquent and polite. I really appreciate everything that was done here. I'm not poo-pooing that at all, right? It's science, it's data. I love it. My IT background loves everything you just said. But to paint the clear picture for the news agencies that are here, the testing was complete January 2025. We appreciate everything that was done. However, there were some things that were missed, right? This company was allowed to operate this way for 1.5 to 2 years. Even though these findings show that there isn't a cancer risk, this was also done in a very controlled setting. Right? Bright Feeds was able to dial it down a little bit. We know that just based on the sound. Right? Adrian and I know it. We knew when they were burning hotter and colder. You could hear.
Okay, not.
Anyways,
Please.
The sump, right, which was part of their filtration system. You bet your bottom dollar that was clean for that test, right? And we don't have to say anything further there. Right, but the variables were not the same. So again, I'm very happy with the findings, but for those that haven't heard this, need to hear the full thing. Many of you know I was in the Marines. I was in a lot of gas chambers, and one thing I learned is your body tells you when it doesn't like something. Okay, so to just clarify, what we dealt with for 1.5 to 2 years was burning skin, eye irritation, soot on our vehicles and personal property. Immediate headaches for me. I can't speak for everybody. cracking pressure in the head, like if you came out off a plane that was descending to 10,000 feet, that crackling, I think most people get it, identical to that. So while cancer risks are important, and I really appreciate that, what we're missing here is that for almost 2 years, citizens were terrorized by a company operating when they shouldn't have been operating at all, right? So while I do appreciate this, I think there should be after actions from the state where this doesn't occur again. A company should not be able to operate rogue for a year and a half, 2 years, and the poor town should not be held hostage, right? Because Donna and Mark did want to do stuff. Senator Lopez did want to do stuff, but their hands were strapped. So I would ask that there's an after action from the state to ensure one, a company is not allowed to operate for that long in a rogue status. And furthermore, the DEP admitted that they didn't require them to have the permit for the exhaust stack, which is absolutely egregious. That should not be allowed again, and no town should go through what we went through for this period of time. So again, effort is appreciated, but to be quite clear, 99% effectiveness of this test isn't good enough. Not for my health, not for my son's health. I want 100% health validation, and I know we're never going to get that. But my point is that even though we think this shouldn't, and I appreciate the modeling, it could impact us. And what this also discounts is the psychological aspects of what we dealt with. I dealt with severe depression from this issue, right? What does depression cause? It causes other health issues. I was debating moving my home, right? Selling my house, right? So it's so much deeper than, and I know you guys, that's not what you test, but I just want to paint the picture for a lot of folks who are going to listen to this and not know the full extent. Because if you just heard that piece, it sounds like, okay, we're all good. It's all hunky dory. And while I appreciate it now, and I do, I don't appreciate getting terrorized for a year and a half, 2 years, and the state having no way to stop a company from operating that way. That's just insane. So I already mentioned a few things there, and this is specifically on the smell piece. The RTO was installed, to be clear, and I've said this from day one, even when Bright Feeds was here, that I'm an honest person. With the RTO installed, it's been much, much better. The days have been much more infrequent, and I reach out to Jake, and right away he gets back to me, just to document that. So I do want to give credit to Bright Feeds for fixing the problem. But the reason why I want to keep speaking, and I know it's a little long, is because there needs to be governance past this, right? There needs to be random checks for Bright Feeds because us citizens do not trust them. I don't trust them because I can tell you one thing I missed in my symptoms is there were nights that we smelt plastic burning, and they swear that they take all the plastic off of their burnables, but many of us in our entire neighborhood smelt plastic burning. And I called the Berlin Fire Department, and they went out and they checked it, and they couldn't find the source. We all knew the source, right? And the reason why they couldn't is probably because what Jake taught us on air dispersion. When they went to the source, that's not where they're going to smell it. They're going to smell that air already cleared out. It's higher. It's gone, right? It's in our neighborhood, right? So I did listen to you there, okay? So I'm going to leave that there. Again, I had to just paint the clear picture because there were so many other impacts that this company had on us citizens, in really being in the Marines. I can be a little hot at times, but as I've gotten older, I have very good discipline. And this company just had me at my wit's end, the discipline. The cops came over a couple times. I was talking to them, and they saw I was breaking, right? I'm sure they have their cams. I didn't know what to do, right? You could put me back in Iraq, and I probably would have more discipline than I did in my own driveway, 7,000 miles here, right? So I mean, I can't, and I know I'm not speaking for myself either. There's hundreds of people that were in this classification and felt the same way. So then where I'm going to go next is just sound, and this will be a lot more brief, right? There is a major issue going on in this state around sound. There's legislation that's starting to be discussed in the state, which I'm going to ask Donna to follow up on, around sound. It's come out in the news the last few weeks around, I think it was West Haven, Bristol has been a known issue. Berlin has been a known issue. This is a much bigger issue than a town issue. And it comes down to what's acceptable and what's not. I don't think I should ever have to have a sound emanating through my house that wakes me up in the middle of the night. The last 2 weeks, I've been woken up at least a dozen times, specifically between 3 and 4 in the morning. So they can do their tests and they can tell me decibels are down and they can tell me the 28 hertz is gone. But all I care about is being able to sleep. That's it. And I'm sleeping with a big fan next to me, which me as a Marine combat vet, I cringe because I can't hear what's going on in my house. And I've said this before. I think it's unacceptable. We still have people sleeping with noise canceling headphones just to get a good night's sleep, right? So again, this is where I defend you guys because I bigger than a town issue right now. But then it comes down to what's acceptable and what's not. And I'd like to get on record from a sound perspective what the town thinks is acceptable. Is it the noise ordinance? Should citizens ever have to be woken up in the middle of the night? What is the town's stance on this? Because I feel like until we get the town's stance, and now I'm looking at the town lawyer, until we get the town's stance on this, we're going to be at an impasse because us citizens feel like it's not acceptable. Or Adrian, myself, others can't sleep. Is it curbed significantly? Yes, it is. But again, between 3 and 4, like what is going on here? Right? It drives me nuts. Because I just I feel like if this was a couple hundred years ago, these would be non-issues. It just wouldn't be allowed. Like the town of Berlin would not allow a company to come in and just operate like this, right? But now with all the bureaucratic structure and the permits and this and that, well, you can't do that. You can't say that. Can we just be people? Right? It's wrong. It's just wrong. So I'm very curious. I would like to know what the town's stance is on the sound. That's it for me.
Okay, thank you. We'll answer these questions going forward. Absolutely. So we have those questions, broad range.
There is a person,
Yes,
I know you normally go to the audience.
yeah, somebody online?
But Luke has been, I think,
Sure.
he would love to speak, and he was
Let's have at it.
on earlier.
Yeah.
Hoping to say something.
Sure.
So, Luke, I see your hand is up. If you would like to address the council, please give your name and address and address the council. Thank you. He's not muted.
Hmm.
Yeah, his hand is up here.
Hmm.
So, Luke, we're not hearing you. I'm not sure if maybe you, okay, I see your name and address. Luke Smith, 8 Sharon Drive, Mansfield, Connecticut.
Where?
Mansfield.
Mansfield. Well, a little out of the area, perhaps?
Well, I don't know. Luke, can you,
Yeah, yeah, I mean, if he works in town, but I mean, Mansfield is not.
Luke, we're gonna just go on.
Since we
and
can't hear him
then
anyway.
Maybe we can get you to talk later. So let's go back to the audience.
Yes, so anyone here, any other thing? Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm sorry. Got to get it on record. Welcome again.
David James, 1863 Chamberlain Highway. Just a general question. I didn't hear it covered, and it just occurred to me as you were talking. You ever gone out like after a rain, you smell ozone in the air, or on a crisp day when there's snow out, you get every once in a while you get a waft of something. So it makes me wonder, how does atmospheric conditions affect your modeling, your and your measurements, basically? Because I can imagine, you're in some type of atmospheric river, you smell it for 5 minutes, it's gone. So that's my question.
All right, we'll get that. Yeah. It's a good one. Anyone else here, folks? Questions, similar, different? Okay, yes, sir. Yeah, sure. Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Adrian Wilski. I live on 339 Worthington Ridge. I'm probably affected one of the most people from the sound that Brightfield emits because of my very close distance from the facility. It's roughly about 2,000 feet. So it's very, very close. So I would like to only say that to me, this company really should never operate after 10 o'clock p.m. Because I think it's not only me. I mean, I don't know how many people are affected by this, whether Ryan and maybe many people even don't know about it. They're not, no, they don't want to really come. They don't know. They're afraid to come to speak up. But it's really ongoing issue, and it's very hard to find out when is the worst day, when is the best day, because like last Monday it was very quiet. It was perfect. We didn't hear nothing. But last night it was blasting. And I have no recordings of those days and everything. So from my inside of my bedroom, outside. So inside of my bedroom.
Closer to the mic, Adrian, just a little bit closer. We just
Inside my bedroom, the decibel level is about 39 inside. So I'm pretty sure that there will be over 50 outside, 55, probably to 60. So I think when they generate that kind of sounds, it's never good for us, for our health, for our, being here, for standard of living. And it's not only a nuisance, but it's also, health issue.
Yeah.
Like lack of sleep, depression, and other issues that might occur. And also, I would like to mention that Brightfields tried to build a plant in Pennsylvania, Umstead, right? I don't know if everybody's aware of that, but the local community formed a nonprofit organization, and they were actually blocked. So they never planned anything there. I would like to also ask our state representatives, the governor, how come nobody asked us when Brightfield was so close to our community? I understand it's a zoning, but zoning might be for the machine shop. It might be for the garage. It might be for the power plant. It might be for toxic waste plant, right? So shouldn't we have any input about this? Like, I'm pretty sure that 90% of Berlin residents, if they knew that there's gonna be food processing that's gonna not emit the aldehydes and other stuff, they would say, no, we don't want it. We don't want it here. So that's what I would like to really have on mind for our representatives, our executive, our government. Yes, I have the sound. I don't know if it's gonna be possible to emit, really show it how it sounds, because also, I live right on the Berlin Turnpike, and it's pretty loud, but cars come and go, especially after 10 o'clock. Pretty quiet. But Berlin Turnpike it's almost like non-existent. Now you can play ball on Berlin Turnpike after 10 o'clock. So when any sound studies are done before that time, of course the traffic is gonna really take over. But I would like the study to be done, not only one day. Let's do it for a week, or for 2 weeks, and do all the data and see what happens, right? This is what I'm exposed to like every night. There's a car coming. Let's go there. I don't know. Did you hear it?
I could, because I'm supposed to, but it's.
Yeah, it's tough to differentiate with that. is, I think, with that, but, I mean, we get your point, Adrian, we know, we've,
It's like a fan, very low pitch sound, low frequency. It's like penetrating walls, and it's really like throbbing in your head constantly. Just, I mean, I don't really know how can anybody really withstand that. I bought like 3 different noise canceling headphones, and I just sleep with them every night because otherwise I can't fall asleep. I have hard time really, really getting up in the morning after 4 or 3 hours of sleep. Sometimes I'm being waken up at night because of the sound. So it's really an ongoing issue, and I don't know. Right after they installed the RTO, it was actually much better.
you
The
mentioned.
noise almost disappeared. Then all of a sudden, it just came back like never before, really. And there are days that are just unbearable, really. Oh, thank you very much.
But just one quick question, because we did do a random test in November, but, which was below the limits in our ordinance, but,
By 1 decibel.
yeah. And that was 3 in the morning, I think, I think it was, right,
It was shortly after 11 p.m.
after 11, okay. But when did you think the noise came back? Just so we have a reference point, so RTO was installed, what, in April or so, I think, operational in April, right, something like that?
Definitely in the fall, it
In
started.
the fall, okay, just
Yeah.
for a reference, okay.
Yes.
I mean, we can't, if we don't have the specifics, we can't investigate it, right?
You know, we have all that complaint form that, right?
Yeah.
Have online, and I think.
Yeah, okay.
There's some data that.
Hearing
Yeah.
leaves,
Huh?
leaves being down. I know I can hear the train.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it's,
My house just because of the
Yeah.
leaves.
right. Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, yeah,
And also, whenever source cut that corridor,
Mm.
between the power lines,
yes,
that
Yeah.
definitely increased the.
Took some
the
of
noise
the-
level too,
deafener away.
because the trees were blocking some of that,
Sure.
noise
It's
and
a
everything.
buffer. It was like a buffer. Sure.
And then it just disappeared, and it's like it's almost like a tube.
Wind tunnel almost. I know exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, it's just terrible. It's just really terrible. Like I have to really turn on the TV, some music or something. But it's hard to fall asleep when you have something playing all the time. And I usually fall asleep when I'm just exhausted, and waking up in the morning it's like a torture. So I mean I hope I'm not the only one. I mean, I know Narayan has very similar problem. But I don't know if any other people have also experienced those in Berlin. I think it's maybe good to find out.
Yeah, I can address some of that when we're answering our questions, yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
No,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
For having me.
We're done working on it. Yeah, there, one quick one, so just wanna wrap this up. Yeah. Yes,
The woman from the state was here last time. I forget her name, and she stopped me out in the hallway because I
Yeah.
asked a question around if you're exposed to this, are you more susceptible to it? And she said, absolutely, you are. So I think what has happened likely to Adrian, myself, some others, is you subconsciously you go searching for it, right? So like for me at my house, when I put my head on the pillow, I don't hear it until I put my head on the pillow. It's almost like the pillow is what draws in that lower frequency. I know it sounds crazy, but then the humming starts and it's like in your head and you can't shake it. And then because I go searching for it, I hear it other places. I need a refrigerator now because my refrigerator is getting old and the compressor is now making a sound that I cannot stand. My dehumidifier in the basement, I have to turn it off at night. I've never had to do that. Right. So again, not me like complaining more. I'm just saying, like, I think the susceptibility now has us trying to find it at times. And there's certain sounds that I just cannot stand anymore because of the overexposure to the sound. So I just want to clarify that.
appreciate that. Anyone else? Any other questions before we get some answers from our folks here? And anyone online? just one last check online. Feel bad for Luke, but if he's in Mansfield, I don't know the relevance, but anyone else?
Luke, I'm going to unmute you. You can see if, I don't know. Can I unmute him? Luke, if you want to try one more time, you have to unmute yourself and speak into the mic, your mic. Okay. He's unmuted, but he's not saying anything.
All right, well,
Okay.
but since he's not living in town, I mean, would appreciate what he has to say, but not too relevant to what we're trying to solve here. So, answers, folks. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Jake Felton, Director, Air Quality Enforcement Division with Connecticut Deep. First of all, thank you for all the comments. It's good to see all of you again. Most reassuring thing I heard is that the odor issue does not seem to be terribly pervasive anymore. Is that more or less correct? Okay, that's really, as the agency that regulates odor, no, I'm happy about that. Yeah. And then I mean, if there are odor issues, like they installed the RTO in April of 25.
Mhm.
Then it took 2 or 3 weeks of working out the airflow issues, and so we'll call that commissioning. And we definitely got complaints over that 2 to 3 week period. And then it really slowed down. I've gotten maybe 2 or 3 complaints through our email thread. I'm not aware of any other complaints over that period of time, which does make me very happy because this was a significant issue for the community, for Deep. And I'm very glad that it's sounds like it's mostly resolved, although there are, I guess, some intermittent odor issues that you all have observed, and that's what prompted the complaints. What it was. Yeah. Okay. No, that's really good.
I just want to make a point that if you're not on mic and anybody listens to this tomorrow, they will not hear anyone who's not on mic. So if you could keep the conversation, Jake, I appreciate it, and everybody else, but people will want to listen to this tomorrow, and
Yeah.
they're going to not have any idea what somebody in the audience said. Thank
Which
you.
I should know that by now. But here we are 3 years later. Yeah. So, I apologize.
I'm little, but I'm tough.
No, it's good. It's good. It's important.
We know not to mess with Kate. Don't ever mess with Kate, okay? We just let
Okay,
Kate do
let's
what she's
correct
got
that.
to do. Yes, know that.
Just make that don't mess with any Kate.
Any Kates? Yes, of course. Kate to my left. Of course, we know that, Kate. No. Go ahead.
So, okay, let me just talk about the stack test. And I understand there's concerns that the stack test did not occur under let's say worst case operating conditions. And it's a plausible, hypothesis. I don't necessarily know that it's probable, and I just want to briefly mention the important steps that we took to ensure that testing occurred under representative operating conditions. So we did have staff on site before the test and during the test. We had decades of experience out there, including people that have done this emission testing, in the past and now work for the state auditing the testing. People that have, kind of done these inspections for decades that kind of, know what they're talking about, know what they're looking at when they see an industrial process like this. And so we took steps to ensure that the dryer, the process, was operating within 90% of the maximum rated capacity of the dryer, and that the dryer was processing representative feedstocks during testing. So it is possible that it was not, absolute worst case conditions, but we absolutely took steps. And this was, a test that we required. It wasn't, and Bright Feeds agreed to do it, but it was required by Deep through a regulatory action. And, as part of that process, we had them run for the volatile organic compounds, which were at issue in this health report, we had them run multiple methods, right? Not just any one, federal test method, but multiple federal test methods just to try to cover all of our bases. So it's not to discredit your theory, but I just, I do want you to know that it's not like they just tested and it wasn't, and I think I've said this before, but it wasn't witnessed or audited or anything like that. It was. And we did take steps to make sure that, the feedstocks that we, believed could reasonably give rise to VOC when processed in the dryer, those were being, processed at the time of the stack test. As far as the modeling goes and the question about like the meteorological conditions, so those are taken into account in the model. The model is based on the past 5 years of Met data from, in this case, it was from Bradley Airport, and I think an upper air sounding from Albany, that was the closest one. So that's how the meteorology is incorporated into the model, and we modeled a 1 hour average, 3 hour average, 8 hour average, annual average for DPH. And Cheryl described how those various averages were used. I think, DPH primarily relied on the 1 hour average. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep. No.
Yeah.
So just to respond to the question from Jake, we use the 24-hour annual average to look at chronic health effects, including cancer and non-cancer chronic exposures. When we looked at acute exposures, we had to use the value that was associated with that was the most close comparable value, which was based on an 8-hour exposure. And so we looked at the 8-hour value.
And so for like the 1 hour, 3 hour, 8 hour, 24 hour, we're pulling in 5 years of Met data and coming up with the worst case meteorological conditions over that 5 year period. So that is, by and large, how the meteorology is accounted for in the model. And then I know this is I'm not trying to be difficult. I know that this is a matter of semantics. And we've been, doing this for a few years. So, DEEP did not affirmatively allow Brightfeeds to operate without a Clean Air Act permit, without a new source review permit. Brightfeeds did operate without a new source review permit. And, we had also issued a notice of violation in 2024 relative to the odor nuisance conditions that we observed. And, that was ultimately the onus was on Brightfeeds to apply for the air permit. Brightfeeds didn't apply for the air permit. There is due process. I can't issue a cease and desist order solely predicated on operation without a permit. Statute, without an air permit, the state statute does not provide for that. So there is due process. There's an enforcement process, and there are enforcement repercussions for operating in violation of the statutes and regulations that we administer. But it's not as though DEEP affirmatively allowed this facility to operate without an air permit. I also just want to, and I know this wasn't your intention, but I do want to set the record straight. This impression that like we didn't really do anything for a few years, and you didn't say this. I'm not, but I do. We started getting complaints early. The facility came online in like late 2022. We started getting complaints in early 2023. We investigated those complaints. We eventually, and there's really, there wasn't much we could do until we documented a nuisance odor. We did document a nuisance odor. We issued a notice of violation. This was in 2024. As a result of that notice of violation, we issued a letter under, section 22A-174-5 of the regulations of Connecticut state agencies, requiring an emission test for volatile organic compounds, which were at issue in the health report, and particulate matter, based on the results of the testing, which, the testing was done, in early 2025. After, once we had preliminary results, that's when Brightfeeds implemented those interim mitigation measures. And I understand those did have a substantial, not total, but substantial impact on odor mitigation. And the interim mitigation measures were curtailing nighttime operations, limiting the hourly process rate of the dryer, and eliminating feedstocks. So managing feedstocks that we could anticipate would give rise to odor. So all of that was done until the installation of the RTO. The RTO was commissioned over a couple-week period, and that brought us to the fuller mitigation of odor. So I do just in case a picture was painted or a story was somehow inferred that like Deep wasn't doing anything since the commissioning of the plant to present, we indeed were, and we were working within the confines of our enforcement process and our statutory authorities. I think that's all I had to say. What were we talking about? Yes. This was a new industrial process without established emission factors. So it's an important, let's say a company wants to put in like a boiler, all right, like a natural gas fired boiler or turbine or a combined heat and power system. Okay, emission factors all over the place for those. We know, that's a very common, typical thing for us to, determine potential emissions and eventually permit. Same thing with like, let's say a kind of more one-off process, but like a chemical or let's say a coating or solvent intensive process where we can do a mass balance or estimate emissions, as a function of evaporative loss. Easy. All right. Not the case here because as the feedstocks are dehydrated, right, and especially as kind of like the leavening and baking process occurs with some of the like the raw dough and pasta feedstocks, there's a chemical reaction that takes place, and that's what yields VOC emissions. There were not convenient emission factors right off the bat that we could use to at an earlier stage in the process to say with certainty that a new source review permit, a Clean Air Act permit would be required. That's why we had to go through the process of requiring the stack test. So thank you for this was important to mention. Coming up with emission factors takes a long time. It's usually a multi-year process. We did everything we could to expedite it. Once we had any kind of like reasonable grounds to require a stack test, we did require the stack test. There are, regulatory timeframes within which the testing has to be completed, within which, there's lab analysis done, there's samples taken, lab analysis done. So then there's, an additional timeframe within which the facility has to submit the test results. I understand that, given your lived experience, it seems like it took a very long time. I am not at all trying to minimize that, okay? And I'm not trying to be argumentative up here, not trying to minimize the concerns. But I do just want, I think I mentioned it at the last meeting, and I don't live in Berlin, but I lost sleep over this, okay? This was a significant source of stress for me, my staff, the department. It was something that we took very seriously, working within our process, within our statutory authorities. I do want you to know that we moved on it. And I do understand that, that the time frame, again, given your lived experience, was not ideal. But yeah, just I think that's it. Clarification.
For your question, Jess. Yeah. All right, two real quick, Brian, we really have to move on. And Department of Health might have, I don't know if there's a couple for you to answer.
Sure.
Are there any? Okay. Specifically.
Hello.
But he does have, please.
All right, two more quickly.
So, just to clarify, the speed at which the state moves is not what us people in the private sector are used to. Let's just be clear on that. It doesn't mean we don't appreciate you. It just means they're two different, opposite ends of the spectrum.
That's a comment. What's the question?
Thanks, Mark.
All right. Yes, all right.
But you had mentioned that they operated in violation of the order, whatever you guys stated, that it's not a requirement. You don't have the power to stop them. So I'm curious how long that went on for. I'm curious if the state asked them to do that and if they still declined. And then I'm also curious, and this has been asked numerous times, the NOV that was issued, if there was any penalty to that. I think that was asked over a dozen times. And then if that's public information, which I think it is, what that penalty actually is. So those are my questions.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. I can answer those pretty quickly. As far as the enforcement process, the resolution of the case is still pending. I do anticipate having an update for you in due course, but shortly, regarding the pending enforcement action. I'm not saying this to be flippant, but we do have to preserve the integrity of the process. So we just, habitually would not comment on a pending enforcement matter. But I do hope to have an update to share with you on that shortly. And you are absolutely right that the enforcement action, the administrative record, relative to that action is public record. So we could, provide that to you with no issues. And
No, it's all right. Go ahead. Yeah, it's okay. You already asked it on record. It's okay.
oh yeah, we issued the NV, right? They tried that. We issued the NOV for odor nuisance. They tried that chemical additive based like odor neutralizing system. The efficacy was not great. At that point, they transitioned, I think, to the RTO, and I think we talked about typical RTO procurements and how this one was, maybe not fast enough given your experiences, but in the based on my experience, it was a relatively aggressive RTO installation timeframe, and they have applied for an air permit, which is under technical review.
They were in violation, but you didn't have evidence to shut it down. So did they purposely operate even though they had that issue to them? They made the conscious decision to continue to operate.
I mean, I see where you're. I mean, I really can't speak to their intentions, and it quickly becomes like a hypothetical. I mean, I think I presented I presented the facts to you as far as, our enforcement process and the steps that we took within that process. So, yeah. I mean, which is ultimately, that's what we would comment on, right, is the factual timeline. So that's essentially what I can provide at this point. That's what the record would go. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Before you go down,
Yes.
I got one question.
Yes.
So going forward, what happens with the state? You check them randomly?
Yes.
What goes on going forward now?
All right. So, yeah, we would, they've applied for a new source review permit. Let's assume, for the sake of this conversation, that the new source review permit is issued. So the new source review permit, it's a minor new source review permit, which is issued pursuant to section 22A-174-3A of the regulations of Connecticut state agencies. It's a Clean Air Act permit that's issued by the state. We do have inspection authority. We will conduct inspections of the facility. The permit would presumably require periodic emission testing. So there would be emission testing. The emission testing would be subject to audit by DEEP staff.
Okay.
There's a framework in place.
There's an ongoing.
Yes, but the important thing is that odors, VOC, that kind of stuff, particulate emissions, like visible emissions. If there's an issue, I mean, you know how to get a hold of me at this point. You file the complaint, because that can prompt us to look into it. And I mean, we have looked into the complaints. So if there's an issue,
Okay.
let us know.
Yeah.
No. I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you.
All
Thank you
right.
very much.
No, thanks.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So, we've got a lot of information tonight. I hope it's been helpful to everyone. We see there is an ongoing process by the state to monitor conditions. Obviously, the sound issue I'll just wrap it up with that we have our town ordinance. We've strengthened it with the, some obviously consulting with our sound engineer that we still are using. From the town perspective, the sound that the state cannot help us with sound under their regulations is disconcerting to me, that you leave a small town like us to our own. What do you think?
I will take a look at, to see if there's any legislation that's in the hopper. It's kind of early. We're starting session in about 2 weeks, but, or if there's something that's on the books recently. I'm not aware of that, but that doesn't mean it's not there. So I've already emailed Bobby, so we'll take a look at that for you.
And we did invite Senator Lopes tonight. I do not see him present, so he is, I believe, the chair of the
Environment Committee, yeah.
Environment Committee. So I would say that's somewhere to perhaps direct some information. If you're looking for new legislation or stronger legislation, it's on them. But we're doing the best we can with the sound and we will do some more testing. And just the last statement, conundrum, for me and all of us here, after, going through the process, I definitely smelled that I heard the noise. I don't anymore. I don't live near there, but I've talked to a lot of folks in the area, in different areas, that did have complaints prior to what we've done, and they do not have them anymore. I've asked them. They said, no, we don't hear it. And, in the general area, closer, not closer than you, because you're probably the closest, Adrian, but in the general area there, I just don't, no one's, most people have said they don't hear it or smell it anymore. That includes, I think, the Ford dealership and the businesses next door. So I'm not discounting what you're saying. I'm just saying it's proved to be a very difficult problem. Even when it was at its height of, complaints and the odor was bad and you could hear the sound. I heard it myself, was out with you, Ryan, several times. Other people next door, to where we were sitting said, "Oh, I don't smell anything." So it's really proven to be a very difficult issue. As far as that perspective for the populace in the area that has been disturbed by it. But, we've been pulling together with our state and local partners, and you folks will continue to make sure we do the best we can with this, and we definitely will do some more sound testing, hearing that. And if you have a complaint, like I asked, if it's the date and time, just specifics, right? All right, we're hearing noise. If it's every night, it's every night, that's fine. But if it's certain, you mentioned a certain time period it started, or it's 3 a.m, those are things that would help with the sound engineer, at least, to, check those times at different, weeks, different seasons. We can, do some more testing, absolutely. So that's where we're at, folks. Okay.
Thank you
All right.
all.
Appreciate it. Appreciate everybody. Thank you, our state partners, for being
you very
here,
much.
and we appreciate it, and
Nice to see you.
the local health district here as well. So we appreciate it,
All right.
and we'll do our best to keep this, as a non-problem.
Yep.
All right. Well, hold on one second while we let folks clear out. Yeah, take a minute.
We'll see you. I'll have Bobby do that checking if there's any legislation okay. I'm not aware of it, but who knows? Anything can come up.
Huh?
So I usually CC
Oh, you need to.
when I can. Thank you.
Oh, boy. Okay. Yes. Yes.
Price ordinance that was passed last year, was that April or November?
The noise ordinance, what did we
did that over the summer.
the summer,
Strengthened.
we strengthened it, yeah.
And what did it do exactly?
It measures 2 different sound levels. Tonal effects, yeah.
We got it from New York City, actually.
Our sound engineer, who's kind of a nationally recognized expert, helped us, tweak it to what the different, because when he started testing, we saw the 2 different tones. So we tweaked it to cover the noise that the folks are hearing, which is there's like an underlying tone. There's a couple different sounds. Yeah, we did it, whatever the recognized standards were from our sound engineer. We did it to those standards that are, reasonably recognized to not disturb folks.
Found that Bright Feeds was compliant.
Yes, we have found that. Which is so difficult because the guy Adrian, I've been talking to him for a long time, and he said, Mark, sometimes it's louder in my house than outside, which I believe him, but you wonder if there's other sources of noise. That's the problems that's what we found that too. There were other sources. Even Ryan, we had a long talk about that. He thought there was noise coming from Bright Feeds at one point, and he realized it was from somewhere else. So it's such a difficult problem. But
It's like right up, like.
it's right, and obviously they're up above, so certainly the odors would drift in the wind up that way if the wind's blowing that way. So but I mean, it's definitely much, much, much better. And if it's not solved yet, we'll keep working on it until we solve it. That's really what we'll do. All right, thank you. Okay, thank you so much. Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hopefully, I apologize. I just wanted to.
No. It was good. You're good, buddy. It's all good. It's all good stuff. Yeah. All right. See you. Thank you. Nice job. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate the information. Yeah, you better go. Get out of here while you can. Ooh. Ooh. Is it really? Well, it'll be nice. I guess it'll be no, it's cold up here. I guess it'll be a little cold in our vehicles to leave, but that's okay. Okay, so. Yeah. Let it run for a while.
750 feet down.
All right. Yes, indeed.
We ready to proceed?
Yes, please. Thank you.
All right. Agenda item number 2 in your packet this evening. This is an item with Griswold Elementary School here, and this is part of the ongoing HVAC improvement that is going on at the school. There was a remediation done some years ago.
Oops.
Isn't this number 2?
Oh, that's 2.
Agenda it is, but not in the packet.
We apologize.
What do you
Yeah,
got?
that's okay. The fire.
Is it, oh yeah, the fire, yeah, why? This is, yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah, it is 4. Yeah.
For some reason it's.
Oops.
Okay.
That's okay.
Okay, we'll switch gears. Can you give, for some reason, my item number 2, can you just give me the,
2 is Griswold in the packet.
oh, I had that as item number 4, I have
I
it.
need
It was just
just,
missed,
That's
okay,
item 2 for the-
got it, okay. So,
Yeah, it's
agenda item
Got it.
number 2, excuse me. All right, this is.
good.
This is in regards to our firefighter rewards program. We have Jim Simons is here as well this evening. The Fire Services Committee has been meeting for some time now, three meetings over the course of some months, taking a look at our existing reward program for firefighters, both for the existing stipend program as well as the pay per call program. And it had last been updated in 2020. So it's been now 6 years since the council last looked to revise this program. And with it in your packet, you'll see the summary of the proposed changes. And really, it does a few things. One is it increases the compensation for firefighters in good standing. And so you'll see the proposed rank, the current compensation, and the proposed change. And I'd like to note that these are paid quarterly. So a firefighter currently gets paid $800 over the year, paid quarterly, so $200 per quarter. This would increase that to $250 per quarter or $1,000. And you see it goes on for driver operator, an increase of $1,000 to $1,300, for an officer going from $1,200 to $1,500, and for a chief going from $1,400 to $1,700. And then in addition to this, this does compensate our firefighters for performing additional duties. And we do this as a way to help incentivize our firefighters to perform those additional duties. And there's things such as foremen, engineers would receive an additional $200 stipend. Medically trained and licensed personnel, it would be $200. A company training officer and also a company safety officer, each one would receive that $200 additional stipend. And then we did strengthen our eligibility requirements to be a firefighter in good standing. And so we spent quite a bit of time looking at that. And you'll see in the packet also, you can see what exactly it means to be a firefighter in good standing. And really, it's the purpose of this is to make it more clear and easier. And I showed the Fire Services Committee earlier, the spreadsheet that Jim uses every time, and it is labor intensive, and we were trying to streamline the process, make it a little easier, and that's what this attempts to do. And then the other aspect of this is to increase the on-call or the fire watch extra duties, if you will, and that's for it's spelled out in the policy if there's a fire watch or fireworks, each extra duty currently right now, and educational purposes as well. It's currently $60 for 4 hours of extra duties, and that comes out for the firefighters to $15 an hour. We want to strengthen this to $100 per event, which would be $25 per hour. And there are a number of events as well. Jim, am I missing anything?
Oh, you're doing great. Say, I taught you well.
So I'll turn it over to Jim, and if anyone has any questions, it's pretty straightforward. We're just looking to increase the rates that we pay our firefighters to compensate them fairly for the good work that they do in town, and we're lucky to have them.
Yes, we are lucky to have you. We know that. So I know you guys spent a lot of time on the Fire Commission. I know you've, yes, of course. Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it seems all to make sense to me, but what are you,
Yep, I went to
questions?
the committee meeting at
Yes,
6:30, so I
yes,
got my
go ahead.
questions answered.
Okay, great, excellent.
you go.
And I listened to most of it
Yeah.
too. Yes, yes.
It's been reviewed by the other fire chiefs in town.
Everybody's happy with it?
Yep.
Everybody's happy with it. I think it's the least we can do for the firefighters.
Oh, yeah.
It was approved unanimously in the committee to move forward to the council.
Good.
So we're
Good.
highly recommending this.
And I'm sure our firefighters will be happy with this too. I'm sure you have the pulse of them and what they think is fair, giving them something extra. Yeah, good. No, I mean,
It's part of a package.
yeah,
Yeah. This is the reward program,
sure.
additional duties program. Then that corresponds with the paid on call. And the next piece of this to be looked at will be the Robert Wolf program, which the Robert Wolf program is a sort of a retirement program. Make sure I'm talking right. In which the criteria we're trying to make the same as this, so it's not a separate criteria, but it puts a number of funds into a 401k for a firefighter.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned that. Okay, yeah.
That is a very low number right now. We're trying to
Raise that up.
work that.
Good.
So that is the next program.
Oh, okay.
Go with that.
Good.
I'll just add that you're talking Robert Wolf, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, that we haven't updated that since 2006.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Time.
needs to be done, overdue,
Yeah.
overdue.
Oh, yeah. No, well over. Oh, okay, good. No, that's great. I'm glad thanks for the work from you, Jim, and I'm sure the chiefs and our fire commission members, overdue, and I'm glad we got there, and I'm glad everybody's happy, and we're so happy we have our volunteer fire department in Berlin. We know you do a
Lucky.
heck of a job, and, I see I notice other towns don't, I think you mentioned that too. Some other towns around don't have these benefits as high. We're a little bit better off with some of them, maybe.
They have, the other
different.
towns have different benefits.
Different benefits, okay, yeah.
Some are more geared towards the retirement.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
They use that as a
Gotcha.
retention.
Gotcha.
We're trying to bring in the younger people,
Yes,
trying to get them to stay a while,
okay, gotcha, yeah,
because firefighting is a younger
Mhm.
generation.
sure, of course it is, yeah.
Get to be my age.
Yeah.
Pains in the back and everything.
Yes.
But
It's a very physical job,
that
yeah.
are getting
Yeah.
old, and
Yeah.
to keep it moving, we
Yeah.
have to get the younger people in.
Yes,
We have to compete with other things that are out there that they're getting paid to do, to survive.
it's
Um,
tough,
We all know that have a household in town, or household in general, you're probably working 2 jobs.
Right.
And you gotta compete with that.
Right. Yeah, no. Oh, yeah, understood, of course. It's very difficult. So, yeah. What do we got? Any other questions? We good? So what do we need a motion?
Make a motion.
A motion.
Move to approve the recommended enhancements to the fire department reward program.
I'll second that.
Thank you very much. Hearing no other comments or questions, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, so moved.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your effort, all of you folks.
Right. Thank you. And Jim's gonna stay up here,
Okay,
with his other hat on,
of course he is.
for our next agenda item. And so it's no surprise to the council. We've had a number of, Jim's been busy. The fleet garage has been very busy. We've had a number of accidents, and unfortunately, to a number of our vehicles. And with that has been an increase in cost, particularly with parts. And so one of those items is with our Berlin Auto Center in town. And because of the number of parts, and the threshold right now is at $25,000 for the year. As you know, because of all this, it's likely that we will need to go over that. And so the request to the council this evening is for a bid waiver to allow the town, to allow Jim and the garage to go up to $40,000. So an increase of $15,000 due to just the sheer busyness
Volume.
and volume of activity right now.
Okay,
Where's the extra money coming from?
It's coming from, if you look in the funding, the police vehicle.
Look, and maybe I'm missing it here.
Insurance.
So some of the funds come back from insurance that we pay, some of the funds that we have, the accidents are less than what our deductible are, will come out of the insurance. But this is a culmination of different things on top of that. Not only is the accident, we also do our bus inspections over there, our state DOT bus inspections. We also do some of our towing over there. And a culmination of all that stuff together, we're starting to get to that point. We're currently at $22,000, and I have a job sitting up there now that is $13,000, and I went to go take a purchase order out, and I was reminded that it doesn't matter if it comes out of insurance or not, you need to go to council. So here I am.
Okay.
going to council.
Thank you.
gotcha. Any other questions? Yeah, we've had some activity there, and, some of it has been our poor police officers just minding their own business, and people can't seem to avoid their vehicles. So that's, I mean, thank God there's been no injuries or
Right.
nothing serious that I've heard of. So that's the upside to it. But as we all know, the roads are a dangerous place today, much more so than they ever have been for a lot of reasons. But so yeah, with that, no other comments or questions. We'll go ahead and take a motion.
Move to waive the town of Berlin's purchasing requirements for ongoing repair of municipal vehicles by Berlin Auto Center of Berlin, Connecticut. This waiver shall authorize expenditures up to but not exceeding $40,000 for the current fiscal year. This action is recommended as being in the best interest of the town to ensure continued maintenance and operational readiness of its fleet.
Second that.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
All right, where we at, Ryan?
All right, we're at, you got a sneak peek a little while ago. This is with
Sneak peek.
agenda item number 4.
We got it.
And this is Griswold School abatement
Yes.
proposal. And so with the HVAC project that's ongoing at Griswold, there was some equipment that was removed from some classrooms, and under that equipment, there were old tiles that had not been removed. And this, if it sounds familiar, it's because this also happened with Willard, I believe, as well.
Oh, yeah.
And so this has gone through PBC, and PBC has recommended that we utilize this state contract and do this outside of the HVAC project. And so I'll turn it over to Doug over here. Go over the rest.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, how are you?
How are you, Doug?
Good. How are you,
Doug.
Doug?
Renditions of the building, the original building from the 60s, the addition in the 90s, kind of tells the story.
Yeah.
Floors were done. Griswold did receive its abatement the last round about 10 years ago. Everything that is known and accessible. It's just a little residual mastic under the units.
Okay.
Serving and operating, so get that at the time.
Gotcha.
So kind of just different ways and means and methods, but unfortunately, this isn't going to remain encapsulated. Existing units are removed, the new ones are installed. It's going to expose that, so we need to.
Okay. Gotcha.
Similar to what was done at Willard.
Mhm.
Hubbard, we have some existing conditions that are going to remain encapsulated, so we're disturbing that.
Okay.
As of right now, to our best of our knowledge, so hopefully we'll have to come back to you.
Great. That's good.
It's got to be done.
Yeah.
Got to be done. Absolutely. Any other questions for Doug?
Nope.
No questions. So let's take a motion.
Move to utilize State of Connecticut DAS contract number 20PSX0154 and approve the proposal from Hasbro's Incorporated of West Hartford, Connecticut in the amount of $46,440, which includes 20% contingency for required remaining asbestos abatement under the existing classroom unit, ventilators at Griswold School, as approved by the Public Building Commission.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's so moved.
Have a good evening.
Thanks,
you
Doug.
too. Thank you.
Thanks.
Move on.
Yes.
Agenda item number 5, last
Yes.
but not least. And this one's an interesting one. I'm going to turn it over to our town clerk. and the-
Yes.
The America 250 Commission
Yes.
was a curveball
Uh-oh.
where they have said that the America 250, which they have asked every town in the country to create its own subdivision of America 250 and to have a number of celebrations as we celebrate
Kind of
the
bizarre.
anniversary of the country, has now told us that we can't use America 250 in any of our verbiage, and we can't use
Oh my God.
How do you make this stuff up? How do you make this stuff up? But, yes, I know, there's a but.
permission and for a trademark sublicense agreement.
Okay.
And so that is what is before you this evening. I do know this has been talked about with a number of other towns across the state, and there's been some comments.
Make it up.
I bet.
They sell merch,
But we are selling merch.
right?
We've
Yeah.
we've already used
Somebody wants a cut.
we had a logo contest, if you may remember.
Yeah.
We
Yes.
tried-
Yes. Oh, yeah.
We looked
Oh,
at
yeah.
all of the logos. We had a beautiful logo, America 250, Berlin, Connecticut, and they're for sale in the town clerk's office. Maybe if people knew they were contraband, they'd sell fast.
Oh, maybe that's
Sure.
that's the secret right there.
Somebody comes and takes them away.
Yeah.
Funny. That's
The
funny.
alternative is just to ditch the whole America 250 and go with Greenland 1.
Oh,
I'm not gonna.
just let it go.
It's already late.
Um,
What we will probably go forward with is the fact that, we are asking for you to do the agreement, please approve that. And we'll submit it to the state. And then going forward, we may change the language a little bit on what we have. We can't do anything about the t-shirts or sweatshirts, but, I'm selling them out of the back of the car, on the side streets.
So will this,
I need to get,
They looking
get
for a
one.
fee in this or?
Oh,
no, nothing. Okay.
And in 6 months, they'll forget about the whole thing. It won't.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Months, so.
But so you gotta, we're selling these, but are we gonna have, we can't do others with that?
yes, you can.
Oh.
You just have to sub-license.
Okay.
the
Okay,
Okay.
gotcha,
base,
gotcha, okay.
Even though you're not using their logo.
What a great country, this America. Okay,
Some lawyer came up with the idea that you need to sub-license. it.
damn lawyers, we know how they are.
Quite frankly, I think I'm not a IP lawyer, but
Yeah.
from what I know, it's in the public domain. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know how you possibly claim that there's any service mark associated with America 250.
Right.
Looking to make $1.
Yeah, yeah. It does seem pretty public, but
Yeah.
okay, whatever.
I can understand that you
yeah.
wanna kind of regulate
Sure.
who's using it and what
Yeah.
they're using it for and have some tracking of it. but
True.
I don't think it's a big deal.
Okay. All right. We'll go ahead and take a motion.
Move to authorize the town manager to complete and execute the trademark sublicense agreement to gain permission to use America 250 as part of the America 250 Berlin logo.
Okay, second.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Okay, so that's okay, so I am going to say at this hour, I've had enough tonight to go through all these appointments. I don't want to rush through them. It's too important. I'm sorry. I think let's just wait till the next meeting. I'm not going to rush through these, and I think we're all, had a great discussion earlier tonight, but it's pretty intense, and I don't want to rush through this stuff. So we'll put it on the agenda for next time if that's okay. And we have all the information. We could do some studying too.
There's no commissions without a quorum or anything. We're okay for the moment.
Yeah. So what happened? Is that people can continue to serve
Serve.
Until
until
the appointment.
another person is
Okay.
qualified.
Yeah.
So
We're safe for another week.
We're covered.
Thank you.
We're covered, yeah. All right. And many times we've gone into February on many parts of the list, so it's not something unusual, that's for sure.
I mean, are there a bunch of commissions where we're having to make decisions between?
There may be, but I just, it's not, it's too important to rush through a list like that. It's a
some
big
of
list.
they can continue to serve and then until they're reappointed or whatever. But there are some committees that, yes, the VNA and a couple others are kind of, okay.
That's okay, folks. Okay, where, town manager's report. My goodness, yes, here we are.
Right.
Yes.
You were trying to skip ahead to my report, so.
Yes, that's
Appreciate it.
that's exactly
You
it.
said you were gonna be fast.
I'm gonna try my best over here to be as brief as I can.
Efficient.
I have a number of, actually, some really good news to share on a number of things. But in regards to our VNA, I do want to congratulate our interim administrator, Edie Hallis, who completed her degree and received her BSN, Bachelor's in Nursing, Bachelor of Science in Nursing. And so this is one of the requirements that Edie needed to accomplish in order to be the director. And so it was a great deal of effort, in school and also working full time. So I want to congratulate Edie and let you know that's a big thing. We also heard some good news from the Connecticut Department of Housing. And this is preliminary, but they have us at 10.03% of affordable housing.
Nice.
Woo-hoo.
That's phenomenal.
They'll change it next week.
It's a moving target.
Donna, don't let them change.
It is a moving target where it's fluid as homes come on and,
get it.
Things do change. However, since that time, we did submit an additional 9 affordable housing units that had not been on the list yet. So that
it's gone up,
that
I bet.
10.03 is going to go up
Nice.
for this year.
Good.
And we also submitted an additional 12 on top of that.
Oh,
That will take effect
nice.
for next year, for this coming as of July 1.
That's good news.
And so
Very good.
we're there. I want to congratulate the council. I know this has been a goal of the town for a long time, and to get here is, as her attorney just said, it's huge.
It is huge.
We have been working on this for
I
so
mean, there's towns that don't even
they don't even
do
they haven't even thought of it.
It's amazing.
This has been a conscious
It's
effort on
something.
Berlin's part for the last 15, 20 years, honestly. We worked on it. We talked about it in planning zoning years ago. We finally got here. It's
That's great.
a tough target sometimes to reach,
Huge
but
job.
I'm proud we were there, and we're one of the few towns that are there, right?
Yep.
What I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And we got more units to come.
We continue to
Yeah.
prioritize that and work.
Yeah, that's great, which helps people come and live in Berlin, to
Good
keep things
news.
affordable. That's the great news. So that's the best. That's
I know somebody who will be looking for.
Yes. Yes, that's
Would you be my neighbor?
So
I got just a place for you.
Oh, yeah. It's cheap, right?
Cheap, very.
Pretty cheap.
Is it near Bright Feet?
I All right, I'll move on. I just want to
Yes.
say with all the winter storms, I just want to thank the highway department.
Oh, yeah, they did a
Nursing
great job.
grounds department, as well as our fleet garage and manager for keeping everything on the road. I think that everybody, our crew's done a wonderful job, and it's a lot of work to do that. And so, so I just want to thank them for that. They're doing
Well, pass that on from all of us, Jim, to the garage, you to the, yeah, I mean, honestly, I've said this many times before in the past, and not even before being the mayor or anything. I drove all around the state, all the time, and a couple different careers, and I'd come back to Berlin, and the streets were always clear. They were clear before many of our surrounding towns and many other towns. They're all around the state. So we've always had a great public works department, and they have cleared the snow, quicker than most towns I've seen, which is wonderful, as well as all the other stuff they do too. But yeah, it's good. The roads are always clear. So yeah, thank you. Please pass that along. Appreciate it.
All right, wouldn't be a meeting without a YMCA update.
Yes.
I just want to let you know we had
know.
a terrific meeting this morning actually with the owner of a property on Lower Lane that we're talking with about.
Oh, good.
We're proceeding with an access agreement and in order for the town to do due diligence with an appraisal and
Right.
other environmental wetlands, that kind of
Right.
thing. So we stay on that. And I do have, I've had some correspondence with the YMCA CEO, John Benigni, and we're coordinating dates right now. We're trying to figure out when we can meet because, as I mentioned, we have a grant that the town had received some years ago, and we can utilize that through a pass-through agreement. So the YMCA would be able to use the grant funds with the council approval to do due diligence, a feasibility study on a YMCA at that Patterson Way property. So we continue to work on that, continue to correspond, and I should continue to have more updates. But we are proceeding on those two fronts on that.
Do we have any type of a date when a feasibility study is finally going to be completed?
I don't.
Or when are they going to do it or whatever?
Right now, we're trying to get everybody in the room to have a meeting, and so once we do that, I'd like to have a timeline for you so that we can have realistic expectations as we go through this. But we are moving forward with that, and then at the same time, we're looking to increase and expand so we can have that second egress onto Lower Lane as well, which we would need whether we have the YMCA or if the town. If that, for whatever reason, doesn't happen, you still want to have.
The town wants it. Yeah, we'd want it, no matter
All right,
what.
thank you.
Yeah. So the meeting hopefully is imminent?
It's imminent. Well, you'll, be invited, of course.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, we gotta,
yeah.
good.
So anyway, that's it. That's my update.
Good. Okay. Thank you so
Good job.
much.
Thank you.
Special committee reports, we obviously the fire commission,
We
we
had
know.
the fire commission.
Yeah,
We know the results of that.
Yes. Yes, we do. Yes, thanks for getting that work done, because nothing's easy. So that's good. No other committees, right? I don't think we've had anything else. No. Council Communications.
Just one.
Yes, sir. What would that be?
Just one. We
would that be?
talked at the last meeting about the town charter.
Yes.
We were going to try to talk about that this evening
Yes, we can talk now.
and what we're going to do to move forward. We're going to I think you wanted to put that as an agenda item on the
Do that.
for one of our,
Well, let's just do it.
put it on the agenda.
No, let's just do it. Let's get it going.
Let's go then.
We have
Ryan?
time for that, but we don't have time for vacancies.
No, we're not going to talk, we won't have to talk about it now, but I mean, I think if you guys all agree, we can talk about, you can go through the process next time a little bit. And yeah, sure, you're happy about that, but let's just do it. There are things we do need to change. I was thinking about it after our last meeting. There are things I would love to change, we all want to change, and
You understand you can't change everything.
No.
We got to change what's pertinent and what's important. The
Yeah,
items
no,
that are
agreed.
important.
I agree. There was way too much last time, even though
Yeah,
most
it's
of
gotta
it.
be narrow.
Yeah, I mean, most of it though, last time was really just some wording changes. Most of it was non-controversial at all, but it didn't work that way because one item was controversial. That was the VNA. But we're past that now,
Exactly.
VNA is doing great, as they are. So it's wonderful. And there's a couple other things. Obviously, we talked about the referendum, and I'm sure there's a couple other things.
Our salaries.
Salaries are a big one. That's a big one.
Shirts.
Because,
Shirt
Yeah, what about our shirts, Ryan?
oh, the
goes
shirts.
in the charter.
Yeah, what about our shirts? Because the weather's gonna be breaking, Ryan.
Hey, you know, if
We
you
got prices for
if you
you.
Google us, we supposedly get like 30 grand a year, and then another website says we get 50 grand. I don't know where that money's been, but they owe me a lot of money. I know that, but that's okay.
So
Figure it
Want back wages.
Me too.
put this on the next agenda.
Yeah, let's have it.
But
Just
the thing is that
What's the
I
time?
think that you guys need to think about how big you want this committee to be.
Yes,
And then also who will serve on it.
yes,
As we know, nobody from the Board of Finance can.
right.
But you must have an idea of going forward on your suggestions and then also the size of the committee and who will be on.
Yes.
What do we have left?
We have, yeah, that's my
7 or 8
seven,
maybe?
7 on there,
7.
7 left.
Look at me.
The other thing we do, right, Kate, need to remember is the people you put on that committee, although we may direct them, it opens it up to anything they want to do. That's
Why you gotta watch who you put on the committee.
my point. That's the point. Yeah.
I mean, really, you gotta watch who you put
We
on.
want to narrow the focus because people just aren't
I
going to.
agree with you on that.
Yeah, we really have to. The
Does
important,
Committee need to be comprised of, are there, besides, it can't be anyone on the Board of Finance, is there anything else we need to follow?
I think that was it, right?
Smaller,
Just,
smaller the better.
Is that the major restriction, Kate, is just the Board of Finance?
correct, is we can't have anybody from the Board of Finance cannot serve on any other commissions.
Hmm.
The town council can serve.
Yeah.
There's a limit. That could be like-
They'll check it out.
You're right.
I'll go
So,
back and
but-
read it.
What you really want is people who will come in. I've done charter revision since, thank you for that, since I started here. That's how I met Peter Russell. But you've had some commissions that have 3 meetings. They're done. That's
Mm.
it. And it does pass because nobody has issues with that compared to other ones where we've had, whether it was Paul Argosy was the chair and we had meetings all the time.
Mhm.
I think you didn't have a lot, but you had several.
Well, I got drafted in the middle of the mess.
Yes, you did. And so you want to just be confident of that. Think of people that you would want to serve on it, usually because also our charter, and I don't know, Corporation Council can weigh in on this. It kind of leans towards we're a bare majority. You may want to incorporate that in your charter. You don't necessarily have to, but that's how our charter leans in most of our boards and commissions.
Okay. And it's difficult to do, but, we want, and I think, I'm sorry, but some of the 2 that I was familiar with and not, just in general, we don't need personal agendas. We need a couple, things for the town, for everybody to fix that we should fix, or at least talk about fixing. Maybe they don't, maybe we don't get that far with whatever we decide to put on the ballot, but, there's a few things that need to be done.
So
So we got to be careful with that.
Yeah, you want to also be aware of, and I'm trying to remember the schedule. I don't have it with me. I apologize. But we have to have a public hearing to start the whole process. And then there will be meetings about the process and then another public, and then the council gets to weigh in on another public hearing. So it's the item that I sent out to you, I think, in the fall. And we can look at it again. I'll have everything up to date for you for February 3rd.
You may want to circulate what the questions were the last time.
Oh, yeah,
We
that'd be
actually
good.
did that.
Use that
Yeah.
as a starter for what they may want to.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah,
What you
that'd be
want
good.
to do in addition to having people in mind to serve is you want to give them a specific charge.
Yes.
Here's
Yes.
3 or 4 items that we
Yeah.
absolutely positively need you to consider
Address.
changing,
Yeah.
Do we need to provide a budget? Because they hire their own attorney, correct?
So now what the finance director did, which is great, is he put the secretary's payroll into townwide, I believe, Ryan. And so we don't have to worry about funding like the secretary. And then the other thing is that advertisement comes out of the townwide also. All right, so that's good. And then we also have to find somebody who would do a secretary. We can look at that.
Kate, do you remember how much was spent last time for the, when they did the referendum?
No. So what I believe that it was on.
Not the referendum, but, I'm sorry, but the, town charter is what I'm saying. How much was spent for that?
I don't, because it was mainly, like I said, the secretary's payroll, which is based upon the number of meetings,
Okay,
and then the advertisement for the public hearings and also for the changes.
okay.
Those are
Thank
the
you.
things. So it fluctuates, Mark, according to the number of meetings. The public hearings are pretty stable, but then the length of the charter revision is what makes it real expensive or,
Understood. Thank you very much.
all right, thank you.
Okay, but where are we at? Council communication still?
No, I'm all done. See you
Um,
quick.
I just have one bit of good news. The Board of Ed tonight rescinded the parking fee. And they're going to refund everybody and
Wow.
You know
so,
how much was paid into that by chance, Mayor?
what's that?
You know how much was paid?
I don't know how many I know a lot of parents still have not paid into it and we're still objecting to it, but they did decide to rescind that.
Because there was a lot of students, from what I understand, that did pay into it.
They did, yeah, but they're gonna refund everybody,
Good.
so
I'm
that
glad to
they
see that.
made that decision recently. So, and I think a couple of reasons they did it, but whatever, they did it. So it's I guess it's a done deal. So that's good news. And we have just the VNA. I just want to mention that again. VNA is doing a phenomenal job. They really are. I mean, they've cut the losses down significantly and without affecting any service in the difficult environment in which they live in, with all the, Hartford Healthcare's around and Yale and all that. So they're doing really, really good. So that's great to see. And we have a ribbon cutting, right? Just so everybody knows, Friday at 9:30? No. Well, it should be inside. It's
Everyone should have gotten the invitation.
yeah.
Yes, it was sent out. I received
Right?
it.
I think it's 9:30 at the apartments, on
Unfortunately, I will
Turnpike
not
Bridge.
be there.
Yeah, huh?
Fortunately, I will not be
You
able.
won't be there? No? Okay.
Did we talk to Coach Cap about the football team?
Yes, what,
We did.
yeah, what's the,
I believe, yes, we have names and a
Yes.
proclamation, and I believe they're coming to the next meeting, February 3rd.
it's the next one or the second meeting?
Is the
I,
second.
I think it's the second meeting in
Hog State.
February.
Yes. Yeah.
And we're gonna do just,
Gonna have the whole football team here? That's what we did.
well, I think it was a real, scheduling issue with everybody. So this was the date, right, Ryan? I think they picked that date
Yes,
that the
they-
most
they did.
people could be there.
Perfect.
Yeah, so I mean, we left it up to them to tell us.
There was a
what we're-
lot of back and forth, I will
Yeah.
say on this.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's tough to, I mean, they could always get regular copies of it to keep.
So it'll be addressed to the Berlin High School football team 2020,
Yeah, I would think they could put it in the, they could put it in the,
25
some
champion,
kind of
yeah.
display at the high school, I'm thinking, but I mean, I don't know. What do? We put, I think there's a lot, oh my God, there's a lot of
I
people.
mean, you got like 50 some odd kids on it.
Yeah, yeah. I think one. Yeah, well, I mean, if they want a copy of it, they could get a little copy of it, I mean, Christie can make them a copy or, just a regular copy, not the big official one, but what do you think? Yeah, I think,
Yeah,
what do you think? Is that okay? Does that work out? I mean, I think it's too many copies, official copies. But
We'll figure out the logistics.
yeah, we'll figure that out.
Yeah, it's a nice proclamation, though, I will say, it's.
No, it's good. Should be good to recognize them. That's great. That it has. Okay, that's all I have, and motion for the minutes. We're gonna accept those minutes.
Move to accept the minutes of the January 6th council meeting.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. And a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, second. All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, so moved. All right, well, thank you, folks. Appreciate that. I think it's good. Yeah, I thought they gave stuff out. I thought they gave stuff out.
CIA, so you get a medal, yeah.